in Gaza. But first up, the news with Jwalani Tulongwepe and our sports headlines with Msibudi Makura.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. The chairperson of the Chief Albert Luthuli Foundation in South Africa has decried the organisation of the National Convention, saying the African National Congress Party is using it to canvass votes in next year's local government elections. It is one of many other foundations that have withdrawn from the convention, which is taking place at the University of South Africa's main campus in Pretoria. The convention will culminate into the national dialogue, which will be held throughout the country. The foundation's chairperson, Mthunzi Luthuli.
All we're doing is to pretend to people that we're actually doing something when we're not doing anything meaningful. Then it only amounts to a show, what I call political theater, to pretend that we're doing something meaningful when we're not. This is what the government is guilty with. The other thing is that we suspect that the reason why this government is rushing to do this is so that they can bolster their chances of winning the national government elections next year, using government money and using this national dialogue to keep themselves relevant.
The Forum for South Africa, FOSA, has meanwhile expressed concern over the determination of the organisers of the National Dialogue to proceed, despite public opposition and the withdrawal of some of the foundations. FOSA says the dialogue is unlikely to yield positive outcomes due to alleged lack of transparency in its planning. The Forum says the use of state resources without openness and accountability is worrying. It also says the money being spent on the National Dialogue is wasteful. FOSA National Leader
FOSA therefore calls for the following: the immediate publication of all CODESA and Sunset Clause minutes, a national referendum to determine whether South Africans actually want this costly exercise to proceed. Furthermore, we express serious concern over the manner in which civil society groups and organizations were selected to participate.
The Pretoria High Court in South Africa is today set to hear an application for leave to appeal in the dispute involving the family of Zambia's former President Edgar Lungu and the country's government. Last week, the court ruled in favour of government that the former president's remains should be repatriated for burial in Zambia. Lungu died in South Africa in June while receiving medical attention. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbebe.
Last week, Gauteng Acting Judge President Aubrey Dwaba ruled that there was a valid agreement between the Zambian state and Lungu's family, which stipulated that the former president's remains would be repatriated to Lusaka for burial and President Hakainde Hichilema would be involved in proceedings. But the family disputes this, saying the court erred in making this finding. It said there is no evidence of such an agreement, and according to them, the meeting ended before consensus was reached. The family wants Dwaba to grant it leave to appeal the judgment so that their matter can be heard in the Supreme Court.
And finally, Gambian police have charged 3 women over the death of a 1-month-old baby who had undergone female genital mutilation in a case that has sparked outcry across the country. The 3 were charged under the Women's Amendment Act 2015, a landmark law criminalizing female genital mutilation. One of the women faces life imprisonment and has been remanded in custody, while the 2 others were charged as accomplices and granted bail. For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jwalani Tulongwepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Bafana face a tough match against Niger in a must-win encounter in a CHAN tournament, while McLaren announced the auction of one of their 2026 Formula One cars. I'll give you details of these and other stories at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, thank you to Jwalani Tulongwepe with our news update and Msibudi Makura with our sports headlines. It is 12:06 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Join us in conversation On our social media platforms, that's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 #Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
Today on #Africa Update asks, as the countries across Africa and beyond observe Independence Day this week, what story do you remember the most coming out of your country? Let us know your views and your thoughts and what your memory holds on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa, and send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126 #Africa Update Us.
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126, and we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am,
It's not just talk, it's your chance to air your views, share your opinion, engage with a community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
The SABC is pleased to announce the launch of a new self-registration platform. Vendors wishing to do business with the SABC can self-register on our internally developed platform. Vendors are able to access this platform on our website. That's www.sabc.co.za/SABC/ under e-tenders, or self-register on etender.sabc.co.za/ and follow the prompts. Visit SABC social media pages for more details.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
South Africa's presidency has firmly stated that the South African National Defence Force Chief General Rudzani Mapanya's recent trip to Iran was not authorized. The visit has drawn sharp criticism, with many arguing that Mapanya's remarks exceeded the scope of military discussions. The presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya expressed concern that the general's statements could jeopardize ongoing trade negotiations with the United States.
On Iran and general's visit, did the president know that the general was visiting Iran? Neither did he sanction that visit. The general's sort of administrative process for travel approval starts and ends with the minister. As much as the president is the appointing authority and the commander-in-chief, he does not get involved in supervising the general's travel. That process sits with the minister. So the president did not know. Is there concern? Yes, there is a concern. At this period of heightened geopolitical tensions, as well as conflict in the Middle East, one can say the visit was ill-advised. And more so, the expectation is that the general should have been a lot more circumspect with the comments he makes, which delve into the area of foreign policy that only the president, as well as the Department of International Relations, are responsible for, and does not fall in the purview of the officers. We are in a process of managing a very delicate exercise of resetting diplomatic relations with the United States, resetting political relations with the U.S., but more importantly, balancing the trade relationship in such a manner that that trade relationship is mutually beneficial. And therefore, it is indeed not helpful.
And that was the presidency spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It is 12 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The Pretoria High Court was this Friday set to hear an application for leave to appeal in the debacle involving the family of Zambia's former president, the late Edgar Lungu, and the country's government following last week's court ruling in favor of the Zambian government that the former president's remains should be repatriated for burial in Zambia. However, the Lungus filed an urgent leave to appeal application opposing the judgment. After a brief appearance this Friday morning, the matter has been adjourned to Monday. Reports suggest that the two parties are locked in mediation talks. Lungu died in South Africa in June while he was receiving medical attention. And for more on this new development, we are joined on the line by our reporter, Michael Mbewe, who was at the court earlier today. Michael, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Good afternoon to our listeners in the continent, but also beyond, Lulu.
Now, briefly tell us what exactly happened this morning when the Lungu family appeared in court from the side of what's happening with this debacle.
Yes, Lulu, what we thought would be another daunting day of exchanges between, the two parties, the two applicants, both the defense and, the applicant, the government of Zambia. It was indeed a brief court appearance after almost 30 minutes to an hour of delay before commencement of the proceedings. Lulu, you...
I'm here, Michael. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. As I was saying, that after an hour of delay before the commencement of the proceedings due to ongoing consultations between, the two parties outside court, what we all expected never happened when both counsels representing both applicants came to a conclusion that they are in the middle of mediation. So what we also witnessed is that the Lungu family was not there this morning. And on their side, they were being represented by our own advocate, Ngukai Toby SC. And the matter indeed has been adjourned until this Monday for more, finality to this matter. So I think there is a sense that there is a settlement that is unfolding between, the two parties, that maybe the matter should be settled out of court, and then Monday it will be just maybe a ruling to say, no, this is what we have agreed. That is what everybody who attended the court today was also, is also hoping to happen because of the exhaustion that everybody, has gone through this journey, Lulu.
You speak of exhaustion. Also, this particular case is very emotive, not only for the Lungu family, but also the Zambian government and the citizens of Zambia. Now, what's the way forward? Do you think, or is there talk of the fact that by Monday things could have been, or decisions could have been made by that time?
Yeah, because what is at the center of this impasse mainly is that the family doesn't want to see the current incumbent, the president of Zambia, Hakainde Hichilema, near anyway the funeral or the coffin of the late Zambian president Edgar Lungu. But just to highlight what you just asked me about, is there an end to this coming this Monday? I think I spoke to some of the officials who represented the Zambian side, whereby they really said, no, we are in talks, and there is hope that this matter will come to an end. Hence, we tried to get hold of the GA, who is currently the Attorney General, Mr. Lulu Gaboo, to speak to us today, but because he's also pinned in discussions in Zambia, the Zambian embassy, the PA who always assists us with the interviews. I was just speaking to her now that she said, no, we've tried our best to get hold of him. This is what has happened, but I think we can speak again on Monday. So everybody, even the mood in the court today was not that emotional as it were on the day the judgment was passed. But also the other thing is that I think the family also would understand that the president only passed away on June the 5th, Lulu. And today we are almost on the 14th and the 15th. I mean, this has been a very long time. And I think it's high time that they also come to their senses and indeed come together and then rest this matter so that the late statesman can rest in peace as it were.
Now, Michael, just in wrapping up, say, hypothetically, let's say that agreements are reached and the president is repatriated, the former president is repatriated to Zambia. How long of a process will that take? And obviously, arrangements have been put on hold on both sides.
Yes. Okay. On that one, it depends on the decision that might come on Monday, or to whether the Lungus will accept the judgment, which now gives the Zambian government the powers to overtake, the body of the late statesman. So, the indicators are saying that it will be a very quick procedure because of they want to really indeed honor this sixth, Zambian president with dignity in front of the Zambian people, Lulu.
All right, Michael, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. That's our reporter on the ground, Michael Mbere, who has been covering the Lungu case. This is with the Zambian government and the Lungu family, basically fighting for the former late president burial in terms of where he should be laid to rest, with the Zambian government believing that he should be repatriated back home to Zambia, and with his family, the Lungu family, believing that he should be laid to rest in South Africa. A decision hopefully will be made by Monday, and that is something to look forward to. It is 20 after 12 Central African time.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
The national dialogue in South Africa, which kicks off today, continues to draw attention as South Africans seek solutions to the country's socio-economic issues. The dialogue has sparked a debate with anti-corruption and social justice activist Dr. Makosi Khoza questioning the selection of participants. In a statement, Dr. Khoza criticized the dominance of English and Afrikaans in business and education, which reportedly marginalized 75% of South Africans who speak Bantu languages. Khoza is calling for inclusive policies, ethical governance, and support for black entrepreneurship to dismantle structural barriers and promote equality. And she now joins us on the line. Dr. Khoza, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Now, let's talk about your concerns. What are your concerns in terms of the selection of participants and who should be prioritized as participants to ensure that the dialogue addresses the needs of marginalized communities effectively?
First of all, I actually think that South Africa ought to involve people who have taken a clear stand against corruption, because corruption is the biggest risk factor for this country. It has cost us so much. In fact, we've even abandoned our own vision for this country of a non-racial, peaceful, non-sexist, and prosperous South Africa. But fundamentally, I think this country is really doing a disservice to the Bantu language-speaking people who make up 75% of the population. I mean, this is not a matter of perception. You just have to even take a medication, over-the-shelf medication. You still have English and Afrikaans, even in linguistically homogeneous provinces like KwaZulu-Natal. You look at even road traffic signs or whatever. It's like 90% of the people in that particular province do not exist. And we are saying a country that is facing a serious challenge, which was reported by you remember the 2021 International Literacy Report, that spelled out that over 80% of our grade 4 learners cannot read for meaning in any language. If you are now going to impose a language that is unfamiliar, how are our children going to develop the appetite of reading? I feel like these people, I feel like we are really sidelining the people that ought to be very central in charting a way forward for this country.
What policy, Dr. Khoza, what policy changes would you propose to promote economic participation through indigenous languages?
First of all, ma'am, one of the things that I think President Cyril Ramaphosa this is a low-hanging fruit. He must stop appointing ministers on the basis of just loyalty to his personal agenda, but appoint ministers who are competent, who actually have that stature that comes with that particular office. Let's take the office of the Minister of Arts and Culture, for example. This Minister of Arts and Culture is not only the ex-convict, okay? Is somebody who is on record saying I raped women, okay? How do you put somebody like that to be the champion of culture, art and culture in this country, to champion the cause of building social cohesion in this country? It starts with those small things, those basic obvious things like leadership. Who do you appoint into leadership positions? And I do believe that it's about time that in South Africa we stop this race thing now. Let's look for best men and women who can do the job, who are passionate about the country, to be the ones that are assisting us in actually getting out of this nightmare.
Now, Dr. Khoza, let's speak about the issue of immigration policies in the context of widespread poverty and unemployment. How do you suggest the government balance humanitarian obligations with the socio-economic challenges that are faced by South African citizens in the national dialogue?
You know, ma'am, first of all, South Africa, there are international best practices. You know, and one of the things that we need to do as South Africa is to have a very strong regional integration policy. How do we, when you have a country like Zimbabwe, let's take Zimbabwe for example, does it make sense to you that you have over 5 million out of a population of 14 million Zimbabweans who are here in South Africa, who are economic refugees? What do we do in terms of addressing the problems of that country? Because it's no use for South Africa, which has more than 39 million out of 69 million people who are living in poverty. How do you afford to allow a situation where other countries are outsourcing their economic, outsourcing their economic challenges to South Africa? I think that the way we can address that, it's also the asylum seeker Africans, they are an inevitable part, and we are rooted in human rights culture. However, that has got to be done orderly. You can't just bring in people and you don't even know where these people live. As a result, how are you going to know whether these people are not getting involved in criminal elements because there is no monitoring mechanism? And also, these people are also being exploited. It's also in their interest as well. And we can't celebrate in South Africa that we are bringing people who are highly skilled from Zimbabwe. But how about the Zimbabwean economy? Because the Zimbabwean economy as well is yearning for help. It is needing those skills. So my take is that charity begins at home. You have to focus on your own citizens first. Zimbabwe never had a problem of Bantu education. We had a problem of inferior Bantu education in South Africa. That remains unaddressed. And we disguise our shortcomings by bringing other people so that we are not seen to be failing as a government. And I am saying, let's use a mathematical approach. Let's use numbers. Because if we are using a mathematical approach, we are not subjective. We are using data to assist us to make correct policy decisions. At the moment, we just make decisions without really thinking about the impact that they are creating. In fact, the government is guilty of creating all these xenophobic attacks. It's not the people on the ground. It's the government that creates a fertile ground for that, for allowing these things, making the borders very loose and very weak and unguarded and so forth. No country can be able to do what South Africa does. We need to do our responsibility of ensuring that we take care, we don't move away from our human dignity agenda. However, we need to do that without compromising, the aspirations of our own citizens. We can't exchange, we can't trade off that.
Now, Dr. Khoza, we've seen with the build-up just last week an exit of a number of legacy foundations, including former President Thabo Mbeki's foundation, the Thabo Mbeki Foundation and others. Now, what's your take on how this will unfold in terms of this national dialogue that has started today, and tomorrow, and the build-up to the 2026 convention?
The pulling out of the foundations is a major blow. If I were organizers, I would not have proceeded. Because when you're having a dialogue like this or a convention, now they are calling it a convention, you want it to be as inclusive as possible. Secondly, you also have a government. The ANC government has lost credibility completely because we know that they tended to use these kinds of things to plunder public resources. So right now, you have all these foundations pulling out, but you are going ahead. It's like it's of no consequence. We no longer care. And you think about it, if the foundations of Thabo Mbeki, of Archbishop Desmond Tutu are pulling out the clerk and so forth, how about the people on the ground? Because these are the people who are high standing in society. In other words, if you are able to ignore those types of people, how much more with the ordinary citizens? I don't think that it ought to have gone ahead. I think they ought to have postponed it, stress out the differences, and so that whatever outcome that we get out of that has some level of credibility. Right now, no matter what they do, already there are question marks. They lack credibility.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Khoza, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today. That is anti-corruption and social justice activist Dr. Makhosi Khoza joining us on the line. Our news headlines up next with Jwalani Tulongwepe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. Making headlines, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has started to deliver his keynote address at the National Convention on the UNISA main campus in Pretoria. Gambian police have charged 3 women over the death of a 1-month-old baby girl who had undergone female genital mutilation in a case that has sparked outcry across the country. And finally, the governor of California has launched a campaign to redraw the state's congressional map to boost the number of Democratic seats. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the Sports Desk. We'll start our sports bulletin with football news this hour. So South Africa coach Molefe and his Chargers are bracing for a tough match when they face off with Niger in a must-win African Nations Championship group clash at the Mandela National Stadium in the city of Kampala in Uganda later on tonight. So the South Africans are third on the Group C standings with 4 points from 2 matches and are 2 points behind leaders Uganda, who have already played 3 games. The coach of the side, Ntseki, his Chargers will now be seeking maximum points if they are to ensure they remain in control of their destiny as the group stages near conclusion at the Chan tournament.
I think what we have seen with Niger, they played 2 different systems where they used 5 at the back, they used 4 at the back, they used 3 at the top, they used 2 at the top. So I think that can always be referred to as tactical flexibility that they have in their games. And with all of that, the approach has been different. The role of each individual player within the system has always been different. So I think it is for us coming into this match to respect and recognize their strengths.
On to this story now. Soweto Marathon organizers, the non-profit company also known as NPC, will launch the 30th edition of the iconic race at the end of this month. That's according to the spokesperson Jabu Mbuli, having confirmed the news to SABC Sport. Now, the launch venue is yet to be confirmed. Every year, speculation surfaces on whether the race will go ahead, but the NPC, which received 9 out of the 11 votes for the Soweto Marathon club to administer this year's event, has assured that the marathon will indeed go on. It will now take place at the end of November rather than the original day of the 3rd of November. This, of course, due to the fact that South Africa is hosting the G20 summit at Nasrec between the 21st and the 22nd of November.
We are definitely not too late to launch. We are still on track as the organizers. We will launch definitely very soon. You will be, as the news houses, you'll definitely be getting the invitations to the launch. So we are not panicking. So everything's on track to date. Good relation with all our partners. We're still in negotiation with our partners. So, like I said, watch the space.
At the same time, Mbuli told the national broadcaster that the date change for the 42.2 kilometre, the 21.1 kilometre, as well as the 10 kilometre races were unavoidable following the government's directive to restrict access to the Nasrec precinct until after the G20 summit.
We said in our press statement that the release last week, we can confirm that it will be happening sometimes in November, and more details will be shared during our launch later in the week or in the next 2 weeks or so. There is a G20 that South Africa will be hosting that was approved by Cabinet early this year, and the same G20 will be happening in the precinct of Nasrec.
Onto the story now. McLaren have announced the auction of one of their 2026 Formula One cars before it's even raced. Now, the Formula One car, which will be given to Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris, is one of the trio of future cars offered by McLaren in the 5th of December sale organized by RM Sotheby's ahead of this year's season-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now, the other 2 are the 2026 Arrow McLaren Indy car to be raced at the Indianapolis 500 400 next May by Mexican Pato Award, as well as the McLaren's inaugural 2027 World Endurance Hypercar that will also set to compete in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And finally, in case you missed it, so Los Angeles 2026 Olympic as well as Paralympic Games will, for the very first time in the Games history, allow venue naming rights, unveiling Comcast as well as Honda 7267.7 as the inaugural partners in a move aimed at boosting commercial revenues. Now, the pilot program developed with the International Olympic Committee, also known as the IOC, will let qualifying LA 2028 partners retain existing venue names during the Games and also buy additional marketing assets. It also opens naming rights for up to 19 temporary venues to worldwide Olympic partners as well as the LA 2028 sponsors, while standard clean venue rules continue for non-profit sites. Comcast will lend its name to the Comcast Squash Center at Universal Studios, where squash will make its Olympic debut in 2026, while the Honda Center will become the first arena to keep its name during an Olympic competition, hosting the indoor volleyball tournament during the course of the global showpiece. It's 12:37 p.m. Central African time, and that's a wrap of your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email. That's to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Alternatively, give us a call. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Mix Vibration sur Channel Africa.
C'est notre invitée du jour, la belle Aïna Mwenze. Elle est là. Certaines l'appellent Boss Lady.
Bonjour Monsieur Jolino.
Parlez-nous un tout petit peu de vous.
Je m'appelle Boss Lady Aïna. Je mets l'accent sur le nom de Boss Lady parce que je mérite cela après le travail fait. Et c'est une rémunération en titre de la personne que je suis devenue aujourd'hui. Épouse et une mère de 4 garçons. Et voilà ce que je peux dire pour l'instant.
Et vous vous êtes lancé dans le business. Comment c'est venu?
En tant que mère et se retrouvant dans les pays étrangers, particulièrement en Afrique du Sud, je me disais que laisser les enfants sur la charge des travailleurs ou d'une bonne, ça serait pas très intéressant. Je me suis dit, bon, je dois essayer de m'organiser et trouver un emploi que je peux faire.
Mix Vibration, tous les dimanches de 18h à 19h, temps universel.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon, I'm Lucy Pozumai. In your business news, Tosawa, Chief Commissioner for International Trade Administration Commission in South Africa, Ayabonga Kawe, says that the country will release the preliminary findings of its review of steel tariffs next week, moving a step closer to protecting the local industry from increased imports. The review was initiated by the Commission in March following a ministerial directive. South Africa's steel industry faces numerous challenges, including an influx of low-priced imports due to overcapacity, primarily in China. South Africa's rand firmed against a weaker dollar, helped by higher gold prices as worries over the United States fiscal health sent investors into the safe haven asset. The rand traded at 17.52 against the dollar, about 0.5% stronger than its previous close. Gold prices gained, boosted by a pullback in the dollar, which was last trading down about 0.3% against a basket of currencies. South Africa's Nedbank Group has agreed to sell its 21.2% stake in Pan-African lender EcoBank to the private investment vehicle of financier Elaine Gotou for $100 million. Nedbank says it wants to sell the stake, citing regulatory uncertainties, potentially higher capital requirements, and plans to focus on Southern and East Africa. EcoBank's corporations in Central and West Africa are exposed to some economies that have been pressured by unfavorable currency swings since Nedbank bought the stake in 2014. Air Canada and its unionized flight attendants remain at odds despite the government pleas for both sides to return to bargaining to avert a strike that would upend travel for tens of thousands of passengers. Chandu Golekek has the details.
Canada's largest carrier says it expects to cancel 500 flights by the end of the day, leaving some 100,000 passengers scrambling for alternatives. The carrier's 10,000 flight attendants are gearing up to strike tomorrow over stalled contract talks on union demands for higher wages and compensation for unpaid work.
And finally, Taiwan's economy is expected to grow faster in 2025 than previously forecast as the island continues to reap the benefits of strong demand for tech and artificial intelligence-related products. Taiwan's gross domestic product is now expected to expand 4.45% this year, higher than 3.1% its forecast in May. Exports this year from Taiwan are predicted to expand by 24.04%, upgrading sharply a previous forecast of 8.99%. Your financial indicators: one US dollar in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 532, and Botswana it's 13 bula 26. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 122 shilling 14, and in Zambia it's at 23 kwacha 10. The BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 40. Russia is 79 rubles 64. India is 87 rupees 57. China at 7 yuan 17, and in South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rand 56. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,341 and platinum at $1,355 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $66.26 a barrel. Now, for any business news stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nosipho Zuma.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Well, thank you to Nosipho Zuma with our business update. It is 12:43 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Today on hashtag Africa Update Us, as the countries across the African continent and beyond observe Independence Day this week, what story do you remember the most coming out of your country? Send us all your memories and your views and your thoughts on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa, and send us your voice notes on +2763 as 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Our journalists and ordinary citizens gathered in Johannesburg in South Africa for a vigil to honor the memory of the 262 journalists killed in Gaza by the Israeli forces since the October 7th, 2023 attack in Israel by Palestine. Our 262 journalists have been killed since then. This is the highest number of journalists killed for the first time ever in the history of world conflict. Tutongo Beni compiled this report.
Journalists and ordinary citizens gathered in Johannesburg, South Africa for a vigil to honor the memory of the 262 journalists killed in Gaza by the Israeli forces. All their names were printed with pictures of some of them also on display. The number of journalists killed has reached unprecedented levels, as for the first time ever in the history of conflicts, so many have been killed. The vigil was organized by journalists with the hope of raising the alarm on the attacks on their colleagues who are covering the conflict in Palestine since it began on October 7, 2023, and one of the organizers is Josephine Klochner, a freelance journalist who says the vigil is a show of solidarity against what Israel is doing to her media colleagues.
We organized a vigil in January 24, and already at that time the number of journalists killed was beyond anything that had been seen in another conflict. And 2 years later, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Now even Israel is openly admitting to targeting some journalists. So we really wanted to do something to show that we disagree, like we did in 2024. And since then, I think every journalist as an individual is thinking it. And it's always hard to like maybe write on social media or what, because we are journalists and like we're trying to have a distance or something.
Silailo Makwidiri from Sala Media says this has now become personal for journalists.
I think after this,
a former journalist was also there on both her personal and professional capacity, calling for an end to the genocide cleansing in Palestine.
So I'm here because I am a former journalist. I worked at various media houses before I worked as the spokesperson for NUMSA. So I'm here on my own behalf as a media worker who's deeply concerned about a live genocide that we're witnessing on television. But I also stand on behalf of the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa that has continuously stood in defense of Palestine, that has continuously publicly rejected and condemned apartheid Israel. As an organization, we have led dozens of campaigns, both to the U.S. Embassy and the Israeli Embassy.
Nikita Ramkusoon, an independent journalist, shared a message from some of the journalists in Gaza.
The message from them that I read out today is a collection of voices saying, help. We need to do something more. Things are not working. We need to boycott, we need to divest, we need to sanction Israel. We need to make Israel a complete pariah in the international community, economically, politically, socially.
The vigil was also attended by those supporting journalists, and this is what they had to say.
I'm mostly here because I'm so saddened at what is happening to us, but in this case, mainly journalists who have deliberately been targeted by Zionist Israel. And I think the extent of the target is so horrifying that over 200 people are deliberately targeted simply because they are journalists. And that's why I'm here.
Yes, I'm here in solidarity with my colleagues in the press. I'm a healthcare worker. I find it absolutely disgusting that the international community is looking upon targeting of children, targeting of women, targeting of innocent people, targeting of healthcare workers, targeting of press, and nothing is being done. Something needs to be done. We shouldn't be having these vigils. This needs to end. Free Palestine from the river to the sea.
For Channel Africa News, I am Tutongo Beni in Johannesburg.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:50 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Just to read some of the comments that have come through with regard to the Zambian government and Lungu family court case and the appeal that is going to continue on Monday. There is talk of some sort of discussions and conversations behind the scenes, but something that we'll get to find out on Monday whether this will come to fruition. Mwalimu AB sent us a comment, and he's basically saying that the family has more say on their beloved late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. And Muhau Muiwa, Sasa Fulika, bring back our former head of state. And some people are finding this a bit funny. And, these are just some of the comments that are coming through from people, our listeners, who do respond when we pose questions on a day-to-day basis. You are listening to Africa Updates, coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Now, today, the Republic of the Congo celebrates its Independence Day, commemorating its independence from French colonial rule in 1960. Festivities in the country include parades and cultural displays, particularly in Brazzaville. For more on this, we are joined on the line by Jorol Luemba, a human rights activist and member of Amnesty International. Jorol, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Now, how important is this day for the country and its citizens?
This day is a very symbolic day because it represents, it's the symbol of freedom. It reminds us of the sacrifice that was paid by our forefathers who actually stood up against colonialism and give us the rights, the freedom, the opportunity to live our best dreams in our land. That's what it means to us.
And what are some of the celebrations that will take place on this day in the country, as well as those in the diaspora?
Right now, in the diaspora, some of us actually do organize events. There are some events that are actually being organized in different parts of the world, and Congolese actually come, they gather, they celebrate, they eat because it's mostly organized by Congolese themselves. Because Congolese embassies do not actually take any action in order to gather the diaspora and celebrate this important day. As far as Congo itself is concerned, there is a parade, as you said, and they've been organizing a marathon, a semi-marathon every year, and a few concerts that also take place during that event, and one of them will be taking place today.
And as the country observes this day, what are the changes that citizens want to see in the country?
To be honest with you, this day that was supposed to be a day of celebration has become a day of mourning. In fact, last year we actually boycotted the celebration of the Independence Day because we asked the government not to spend, to use the fund that was meant to celebrate this Independence Day in order to resolve urgent issues that we have in the Republic of Congo. As we speak right now, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance have declared that the country is in financial crisis. They do not even know how they're going to pay the salaries. And then they came up with a budget to celebrate the Independence Day, which is contrary to what they've actually declared. And in fact, even with the marathon that took place yesterday, I am sad to inform to you that two runners passed away during the marathon because there was no medical assistance put in place in order to help the people who were running. And there was no preparation even before the marathon. So this is how irresponsible the government is. And the money actually spent, last year we managed to boycott the events. This year they've decided to have it again, simply because some of the companies that handle the feast, the Independence Day festivities, belong to the children of the president. So the goal is for them to spend the state funds while the people are suffering, while the people have nothing to eat, while the students have the bursaries and the pensioners are not getting paid. So this is the sad story regarding Independence Day in Congo right now.
And what are citizens on the ground? What is everyone doing with regards to the change they want to see in Congo Brazzaville?
So on the ground, there are a lot of things that the citizens are doing on the ground. Marches are being organized, but most of the time when people try to organize marches, the government sends police in order to oppress the people. As I've already shared here before, one of the opposition leaders who wanted to organize a march was actually arrested, kidnapped, and tortured. This is the reality. And recently, as I am speaking to you, there is a journalist who was actually threatened because he was invited as a guest, and he actually gave an honest opinion regarding the economic and social situation of the Republic. And he was also threatened for expressing his freedom of speech right. So there are a lot of actions that are being taken. Legal actions are being taken as well. We are reporting the government for state fund looting on international level. We are also preparing some march as we speak. We also boycotted this event, and a lot of people have been actually trending on social media, on TikTok, and some of the images that we've actually posted are going viral right now on social media, and more people are being educated on the real reason why the funds are being issued. The purpose is not to celebrate the country, but to allow the government leaders and the children to loot the state fund.
Well, Gerald, we have run out of time and are going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
It was a pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and you too. That's Gerald Wemba, a human rights activist and member of Amnesty International, joining us on the line. And we say happy Friday to the Upside team. Dabukhole Kuleni is here. Hello.
Good. Yes, my voice. I know it's brilliant. Happening? Good afternoon to you, Lulu. Listen, have you been on social media lately where you sort of get every single type of advice that you can think of? Whether financial advice or relationship advice. But sometimes we need experts to weigh in on these conversations and not just to take it from a social media content creator. And we're going to be focusing specifically when it comes to financial advice given on social media that we need to raise a few red flags on and not just take a blanket adopted based on an influencer's statement on it. So we'll be having an expert from Momentum to walk us through some of the things we need to look out for when we're taking advice on social media when it comes to financial matters. And then we're joined by Zimbabwean Afro soul and Afro jazz singer Feli Nandi. She'll be celebrating a showcase called A Night with Feli Nandi, and we'll be talking about it and what we can expect from the performance. And then we also have a rising South African-based rapper, born and originally raised in Lesotho. He's a producer, by the way. He's got a song coming up. It's called 80s Baby, and I don't know why it's called 80s Baby because he's not an 80s baby himself.
Oh. Okay.
Actually.
Yeah, well, interesting.
He's not an 80s baby, so I'm trying to figure out why the 80s
title. Yeah.
And also why you're taking us back there. Was it a good time for us musically? And so we'll be reflecting on that on the Upside.
All that and more coming up at the top of the hour on the Upside with Dabukhole Kuleni and Matego Museto. For myself, Lulu Gaboo and the Africa Update team, that's our producer Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator Ndando Lutuli, and social media talent Butelezi. It's been a great week, a great day today. Continue with us on our socials, and let's do this again on Monday. Keep safe. Bye-bye.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has described the first sitting of the National Convention as a platform on which to openly and constructively confront the realities of the country. The aim of the two-day citizen-led debate is to address the challenges that the country is facing over